The storm came like God's fury, swallowing the prairie in white. Sarah Garrett fought through waist-deep snow toward the barn, her mother's shawl stiff around her shoulders. She didn't expect to find a man dying against the door. But then again, she'd stopped expecting kindness from the world 2 years ago. The stranger lay crumpled in the drift, his coat dark with blood, a bullet wound. She saw right side still seeping. His horse was gone. His face, what she could see of it beneath the frost, was pale as death. His eyes opened blue, startling against the white. "Please." The word came out broken. "Don't. Trouble." Sarah knelt in the snow, her hands already numb. Last week, the town women had crossed the street to avoid her. Yesterday, Daniel had asked why people were mean. She had no good answer then. She had no good answer now. But she knew what it meant to be left in the cold. "Hush," she said, hooking her arms beneath his shoulders. "I've already got more trouble than one dying cowboy can add to." She dragged him toward the cabin, leaving a blood trail behind them in the snow. Her back screamed, her legs burned. The wind tried to tear them both away inside. Her mother, Emma, stood by the fire. Daniel beside her. They stared. "Help me get him to the hearth," Sarah commanded, kicking the door shut against the howling dark. "We're not letting another soul freeze in this God-forsaken winter." Emma moved first, grabbing blankets. Daniel ran for water. Together, they laid the stranger by the fire, his breathing shallow and wet. Sarah looked at his face. Strong bones, weathered skin, a scar through one eyebrow. A hard life written there, but whose life wasn't hard. She began cutting away his coat. The bullet was still inside. Her hands would have to go in after it. "Mama," she said quietly. "Heat the knife." Sarah's hands trembled as she held the blade over the flame. Emma gripped a lamp, her face tight. Daniel peered from behind a chair, eyes wide as moons. The stranger, Cole. He'd muttered through fever, lay unconscious on the table. His shirt was cut away. The wound gaped angry and red. "Hold him," Sarah told her mother. She pressed the knife in. Cole screamed, even unconscious. "Thrashing." Emma threw her weight across his shoulders. Daniel whimpered. "Blood. So much blood." Sarah's vision blurred, but her hands stayed steady. She'd birthed calves. She'd set Daniel's broken arm when he fell from the loft. This was just meat and bone, just another body trying to stay alive. The bullet came free with a wet sound. She dropped it into a tin cup. Then stitched the wound with thread meant for mending Daniel's shirts. "Will he die?" Daniel whispered. "Not if I can help it." Sarah pressed clean cloth against the stitches. "Now fetch more snow. We need to cool his fever." 3 days passed in a blur of sweat and ice. Cole muttered in his sleep, names tumbling out. Thomas Margaret should have been faster. Sarah didn't ask. She cooled his forehead and kept him breathing. On the 4th morning, his eyes opened clear. He stared at the ceiling, then at her. "We're safe." Sarah said, "You're safe." He tried to sit. She pushed him back down. "Don't be stupid. You'll tear the stitches. Why'd you help me?" His voice was rough as river stones. Sarah handed him water. "Because someone should." He drank, studying her face. "You don't know me. Could be a criminal. The town already thinks we're criminals." She took the cup back. "One more won't make a difference." Daniel crept closer, fascinated. "Are you a real cowboy? Do you have a horse? Can you shoot?" Cole's mouth almost smiled. "Almost used to." "Daniel, let him rest." Emma called from the stove. But Sarah saw something shift in Cole's eyes when he looked at the boy, a softness breaking through stone. That night, she watched him sleep by the fire. Emma whispered, "He's trouble." Sarah, "The good kind or the bad kind?" "I can't tell yet." Sarah didn't answer. Hope was dangerous. But it had been so long since she'd felt anything but cold. Early February brought the thaw. Water dripped from the eaves. Mud showed through melting snow. Cole sat at the table, strength returning, watching Sarah cook thin porridge. Daniel chatted about a fox he'd seen. Emma mended by the window. It felt almost like family. "Where were you headed?" Sarah asked. Before the storm, Cole's jaw tightened. "Nowhere particular, just away." "Away from what?" He was quiet a long time. "Then I worked a ranch in Wyoming 3 years back." "Good man owned it?" "Thomas Garrett." Sarah's spoon stopped. "Garrett? No relation to you." "I figure. Common enough name." Cole stared at his hands. "Claim jumpers came one night. Shot Thomas dead. I tried to stop them. Got this for my trouble." He touched his side. "Been drifting since." Emma set down her mending. "Why?" "Because I should have been faster." The words came out hard. "Should have saved him. His daughter Margaret, she said I was a coward. Said she never wanted to see my face again." "And you believed her?" Sarah asked softly. Cole met her eyes. "Wouldn't you?" Sarah ladled porridge into bowls. "My mama married a man named Jack. He was charming, kind to Daniel. We thought," she swallowed. "He was wanted for horse theft. Died in a shootout before we knew the whole truth. The town decided we were criminals, too. Church ladies won't speak to us. Store owner cheats us on every sale. Children throw stones at Daniel. Daniel ducked his head. They call me thief's bastard." "Daniel." Emma's voice cracked. "It's what they say, Mama." Cole looked at each of them. These broken people who'd saved his life. "I should leave. I'm strong enough now." "Where will you go?" Sarah asked. "I don't know. Just away." He made it to the property edge before his legs gave out. The wound reopened, blood soaking through his shirt. He fell in the mud, cursing his own weakness. Sarah found him there. "You're too stubborn to die and too stupid to live," she said. Fury and fear mixing in her voice. She dragged him back toward the cabin, her arms shaking. "Why?" he gasped. "Why do you care?" "Because I'm tired of losing people." The words burst out of her. "Because you look at us like we're human. Because Daniel hasn't smiled in 2 years until you came. Is that enough?" Cole stared at her. Then quietly, "I'll stay until spring if you'll have me." That evening, he helped Daniel whittle a wooden horse. Emma and Sarah exchanged glances. This broken man was becoming part of their broken family. Outside, the first crocus pushed through snow. Spring was coming. Everything was about to change. Mid-February turned the prairie into mud. Cole worked despite Sarah's protests, fixing the barn roof, chopping firewood, teaching Daniel to whittle properly. Sarah watched him from the cabin window, coffee steaming in her hands. He moved careful, favoring his side, but determined. She hadn't asked him to work. He just did. "He's making himself useful," Emma said, kneading bread. "Making himself belong." "He doesn't belong here," Sarah said. But her voice lacked conviction. Daniel ran outside with a wooden gun Cole had carved him. His laughter echoed across the farm. Sarah realized she was smiling. "I need supplies," she said. "I'll ride to town." "Take Cole." "No." Sarah set down her cup. "That'll only make things worse." Town was exactly as bad as she'd feared. Mr. Hollis, the store owner, looked at her like dirt. "Cash only." "Miss Garrett, no more credit." "I have cash." Sarah put coins on the counter. "That'll buy you flour. Nothing else." He pushed one small bag toward her. Prices went up behind her. Women whispered loud enough to hear. Heard she took in a strange man living in sin. Probably that whole family's rotten. Someone should tell the pastor. Sarah took the flour and left. She didn't cry until she was halfway home. Cole was waiting on the porch. He saw her face and understood immediately what happened. Nothing new. She carried the flower inside, her hands shaking. That night, she couldn't stop the tears. Emma held her. Daniel asked if he'd done something wrong. No, baby. You're perfect. Morning came cold and clear. Cole saddled Emma's old mare. I'll be back before supper. Where are you going? Sarah demanded. He didn't answer. He returned hours later with flour, salt, coffee, and fabric for Daniel's clothes. Sarah stared at the supplies, then at Cole's empty holster. Where's your gun? Sold it? That gun kept you alive. You kept me alive. Cole met her eyes. Let me return the favor. Sarah wanted to yell to tell him he was a fool, but the words stuck in her throat because nobody had ever sacrificed something for her before. Thank you, she whispered. That night, Daniel wore Cole's hat and practiced his cowboy walk. Emma told Sarah, that man loves you. You know that, don't you? Sarah's heart hammered. She knew. God help her, she knew. March brought rain and wildflowers. Purple pasque flowers dotted the prairie. Yellow buttercups lined the creek. The world was waking up. Cole taught Sarah to ride properly in the meadow. His hands adjusted her grip on the reins, fingers brushing hers. Neither pulled away. Like this? She asked, breath catching. So, just like that, his voice was lower than usual. You're a natural. They worked side by side now, mending fences, planting vegetables, checking the well. Their conversations grew longer, more honest. Sarah laughed at his dry humor. Cole realized he hadn't heard real laughter in years. Daniel bridged the gap between them. Hero worshipping Cole with a child's pure devotion. Tell me about Montana. Can I ride with you tomorrow? Cole softened in ways Sarah hadn't thought possible. He told stories around the fire, let Daniel help with chores, ruffled the boy's hair absently. One night, Sarah found him on the porch staring at stars. She sat beside him without asking. Can't sleep. Thinking about what? Cole was quiet so long she thought he wouldn't answer. Then Margaret, Thomas's daughter, we were engaged when those claim jumpers came. I froze just a second, but that second he swallowed hard. Thomas died. Margaret called me a coward. Ed said she never wanted to see me again. Maybe she was right. Sarah took his hand. A deliberate choice, an intimate gesture. Cowards don't face blizzards. Cowards don't sell their only protection to feed a boy they barely know. Cowards run. She squeezed his fingers. You stayed. Cole looked at her like she was sunlight after years in a cave. Sarah. Their faces were inches apart, almost a kiss. Sarah, Emma called from inside. Can you help me with this? The moment broke. Cole pulled back, clearing his throat. Sarah stood, her hands slipping from his, but everything had changed. Morning came with Emma's casual announcement. The spring dance is next month. We should go. No. Sarah's response was immediate. They'll never accept us. Mama. Cole said nothing, but his jaw tightened. He was beginning to understand that hiding wouldn't save them. Only defiance would. Late March brought warmth, but also storm clouds. Sarah worked in the garden when hoofbeats approached. She looked up to see 5 men on horseback. Pastor Yates, Sheriff Denton, 3 town elders. Her stomach dropped. They dismounted without greeting. Pastor Yates smiled, false as painted wood. Sarah, we need to speak with your mother about what? It's come to our attention that you're harboring an unmarried man with a child in the house. His voice dripped concern. It's inappropriate. Cole appeared from the barn, Daniel beside him. He read the situation immediately, stepping forward. I work here, he said. That's all. In exchange for what? Elder Hollis, the store owner's father, sneered. This family has no money. What are you really getting, cowboy? Sarah moved between them. He helps with the farm. We feed him. It's honest work. Is it? Pastor Yates's false kindness vanished. A twice ruined woman and her daughter living with a strange man. Corrupting a young boy with sin. How dare you? Emma started. We dare because we care about this community's morals. Pastor Yates straightened. The man leaves or we petition to remove the boy. Place him with a proper Christian family. Daniel grabbed Cole's hand, terrified. Sarah's world tilted. You can't do that, she whispered. We can, we will. Sheriff Denton looked uncomfortable, but didn't contradict the pastor. Cole, that your name, you have 3 days. Leave or I'll charge you with vagrancy and moral corruption. You'd really take a child from his family. Cole's voice was dangerously quiet. We'd save a child from corruption. Pastor Yates mounted his horse. 3 days they rode away. Silence filled the farm like poison. That night Sarah found Cole packing his bedroll in the barn. Fury exploded through her fear. So you'll just go? Prove them right that you're a drifter who takes and leaves. I won't let them take Daniel. Cole's voice cracked. I won't be the reason you lose everything. You're not the reason. Their cruelty is. Sarah's vision blurred. You're the first good thing in 2 years. And she couldn't finish. Cole pulled her close, his embrace desperate and tender. I'll go, he whispered against her hair. But I'll find work, save money, come back proper. I'll marry you if you'll have me, Sarah. I swear it. She pulled back, searching his face. Promise. I promise. But promises Sarah had learned meant nothing against a cruel world. 2 days until Cole left. Sarah stood on the porch at dawn, watching the barn where their story began. Inside, Cole saddled the mare for his journey. Daniel refused breakfast. Emma moved like a ghost. The cabin felt like a tomb. Sarah hadn't slept. She'd replayed everything, finding Cole in the snow, his first smile at Daniel, his hand touching hers on the reins, his promise to return. How did a stranger become her whole world in 3 months? The answer came clear. Because he saw her, really saw her. When everyone else looked away, he looked at her and chose to stay. Something crystallized in her chest. Cold certainty turning to hot resolve. She'd been running from judgment her whole life. Hiding, shrinking, apologizing for existing. But Cole hadn't hidden. He'd stood between her and the pastor. Sacrificed his gun, his pride, his safety. He was willing to leave to protect her. What had she sacrificed? What had she fought for? Nothing. She'd let the town dictate her entire life. No more. Sarah marched into the barn. Wait. Cole looked up from the saddle. Sarah. No. You wait. She grabbed the reins from his hands. I'm going to town. Don't leave until I get back. What are you? Trust me. She kissed him quickly, fiercely. Then she was riding, her heart hammering, but her spine straight. She found Pastor Yates in the church preparing Sunday's sermon. He looked up startled. I'm going to the spring dance, Sarah announced with Cole. And if you or anyone else has objections, say them to my face in front of the whole town because I'm done hiding. Her voice rang off the rafters. That man is worth 10 of your hypocrites, and I'll marry him whether you approve or not. Pastor Yates gaped like a landed fish. Sarah didn't wait for his response. She rode home, feeling lighter than she had in years. Cole was waiting on the porch, confused and hopeful. What did you do? I told them the truth. Sarah dismounted, breathless. We go to that dance together. We stand in front of them all and we show them we're not ashamed. Sarah, they could make things worse. They already made it as hard as they could. She took his face in her hands. Now we choose how we live in spite of them. Cole searched her eyes. Then he smiled. Real and full and beautiful. All right, let's dance. Daniel whooped from the doorway. Emma laughed through tears. Outside, clouds broke, sunlight streamed through. Spring was coming, and they would face it together. The spring dance arrived on a Saturday in early April. Sarah wore her mother's wedding dress, altered to fit, simple, cream-colored, beautiful. Cole borrowed a clean shirt from old Mr. Henderson. Daniel held Cole's hand tightly as they approached the town hall. Conversation stopped. Every eye turned. Some faces showed disgust, others curiosity. A few, very few, something like respect. Sarah lifted her chin and walked inside. Pastor Yates stood near the door with his wife. Martha, a quiet woman who'd once been kind to Sarah. The pastor opened his mouth, but Martha spoke first. "I'm glad you came, Sarah." Her voice was careful, but genuine. "It's been too long since we had young people at these gatherings. Not forgiveness, but not condemnation, either." Something loosened in Sarah's chest. Old Mr. Henderson approached Cole. "Heard you're looking for work. I could use a good hand on my ranch. Pays fair." "I'd appreciate that, sir." A young mother thanked Sarah for helping her son last year when he'd fallen. The blacksmith nodded to Cole. "Manto man." Not everyone softened. Mr. Hollis and several families kept their distance. Faces hard, but enough cracks formed that the evening became bearable. Then, almost pleasant. The fiddles started. Cole cleared his throat. "I can't dance worth a damn." "I don't care." Sarah held out her hand. On the floor, surrounded by people who'd shunned her, Sarah felt something break open inside. Not the town's acceptance that remained fragile, conditional, but her own prison of shame. She was free whether they approved or not. She was free. "You were right," Cole whispered, stepping on her feet. "Standing here with you is worth whatever comes." Sarah laughed. Daniel clapped along. Emma dabbed her eyes, smiling. Even a few townspeople tapped their feet. It wasn't a miracle. Most remained awkward, uncertain, but the ice had cracked. Survival looked possible. Belonging looked imaginable. As the dance ended, Sheriff Denton approached. Sarah tensed, but he simply tipped his hat. "Cole, Mr. Henderson's serious about that job. You should talk to him. Not friendship, but acknowledgement. Cole had a place here now." They all did. Walking home under stars, Daniel between them swinging their hands, Sarah realized she didn't need the town's approval. She had Cole's love, her family's strength, and her own courage. That was enough. That was everything. 2 weeks later, late April, dressed the prairie in wildflowers. Cole worked Henderson's ranch now, riding home each evening. Sarah tended a growing garden. Beans, squash, tomatoes reaching toward the sun. Daniel practiced roping a fence post. Emma hummed while hanging laundry. The cabin, once a place of mere survival, felt like home. Sarah and Cole courted publicly now, walking together on Sundays, planning a summer wedding. The town's treatment remained mixed. Some families warmed to them. Others stayed cold. But the Garretts no longer lived in fear. They'd carved out space to exist, to love, to thrive. One evening, Cole asked Sarah to walk with him to the barn where we started, she said softly. Spring had transformed everything. Green grass where snow had drifted, warm air where wind had howled. Life where there had been death. Cole pulled something from his pocket. A wooden ring he'd carved inlaid with a small turquoise stone he'd found by the creek. "I'll get you a proper one someday," he said, nervous as a boy. "This one is proper." Sarah's eyes stung. "It's made from this land by your hands for our life together." He slid it onto her finger. They kissed as the sun set, painting the prairie gold and pink. Daniel whooped from the cabin. Emma called them to supper. Life continued, simple, hard, beautiful. Later, as stars appeared, Sarah stood with Cole looking at their small farm. The cabin glowed with lamplight. Smoke rose from the chimney. The barn roof stood firm. Wildflowers dotted the yard like promises. "Thank you, she whispered. For what? For staying. For choosing us. Cole pulled her close. You saved my life in that blizzard, but you saved more than that. He touched her face gently. You saved me from being alone. We saved each other, Sarah said. And it was true. In a hard land among hard people, two wounded souls had found what they'd stopped believing in. Not acceptance from everyone, but acceptance from each other. In that small, fierce love, they built something the prairie wind couldn't blow away. A family not of blood, but of choice, not of perfection, but of presence. And when spring came, as it always does, they were still standing together. End.